Welcome to Super Region 2's final preview pod, where we're going to cover Super Region 2 championship game. I'm your host, Coach Poe, Justin Polizzi. I've got along with me Chris Ferguson, D2 KFerg, and Ryan Gladwin, who have been here all playoff long with us. And guys, welcome to the final of Super Region 2 here this week, guys. It's crazy how fast it's gone, but glad to be back here with you guys.
Absolutely. We have the warmer games relative to the other folks.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? Well, and I think as you guys look at this bracket, very interesting matchups all the way through, and this week doesn't let us down. This regional final is a phenomenal matchup. Albany State, Newberry, a 1 versus a 3. We're going to talk about how we got there in just a second, guys. But I think one of the more intriguing matchups of the playoffs in the regional finals is here in Super Region 2. And we're going to start with Newberry. And how did they get there, right? Going down to West Florida, the number 2 seed here in the region, and absolutely handling business on the road. And Ryan, I know you were locked into this one. Kind of give us your breakdown on what you saw and kind of your opinion as you've had a couple days to digest this one.
Yeah, I think kind of what happened in this game is almost what we had talked about the week before. Yeah. We thought Newberry's going to be able to take advantage of West Florida's secondary, which happened. I mean, shows right there. Reed Sharpia, 27 of 44, 416 yards, which was a career high. Or at least a season high. 2 touchdowns. The 2 picks was surprising. When Newberry started turning the ball over, I was like, oh, Lord, here we go again, just like, last week. But, yeah, so then, West Florida kept battling, and I felt like Newberry kind of set the tone for the whole game. When you come out and score on the first play, that kind of gets things going. West Florida, tries to come back, and West Florida or Newberry scores again. They're up 14-0 at the end of the first, and I don't know what you guys thought, but I thought, okay, this Newberry team might be on. We talk about being on a heater. I did not expect them to jump out to a 2-score lead. West Florida fights back there in the second quarter. Makes it a 7-point game at the half, and then adds a score to tie things. I think it was middle or relatively early in the third. And then fourth quarter, Newberry just did what they did. They scored outside of 2 minutes again. I don't know what this is about scoring earlier than they normally do. I joked with my dad. I said, Newberry scoring here, when it was like a little under 5 to go, I said, because they want West Florida to score so they could score again with 2 minutes to go, because that's what Coach Knight's done all year. Defense, bend, not break, like typical Newberry. Williams, 9 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, a pass breakup. He was a stud. And I think what's really good about this Newberry defense is you've got some guys that are the ones who get more recognition, but as a collective unit, yes, they don't have 2000 Baltimore Ravens numbers, but they bend, they don't break, and man, they always seem to make a play right when they need to. So it was a good win, second win for the Wolves down in gorgeous Pensacola for the playoffs. I think West Florida's going to probably not invite them back down anytime soon, though.
No, and it's interesting you say that, right? Because you put the game on. I missed the first couple minutes of the game initially, and when you put it on, it's 14-0, and you're like, oh, well, okay, this didn't maybe see it starting this way, but
right,
hey, it is what it is. And what was interesting at that point, I was like, hey, okay, you're down 14-0 if you're West Florida. Do you come back? And if you're Newberry, how do you handle that? Like, West Florida is explosive. How do you handle that? They're gonna take some shots and they're gonna land some blows here. And it's how do you respond to that if you're Newberry? Can you go shot for shot with them? Can you go drive for drive and that type of deal? And I think they answered that question Marcus Stokes goes down there into the third quarter. And so I felt like you breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief right there because you have a backup coming in. And, hey, your defense, like you guys said, you bent and you didn't break. But I was really impressed watching Newberry kind of battle that out and be able to take those shots from West Florida, take the big plays, take the shots, and then answer some of their own. There was a little impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I think
I agree.
Go ahead,
and I know there was folks who questioned, if Stokes doesn't go down, does West Florida win this game? I mean,
yeah,
I don't know.
No,
I get that. I mean, dude is phenomenal. He's a Harlon Hill finalist for a reason. But they were losing most of the game with him in there.
Right. I mean, so
and that's kind of disingenuous to the Newberry effort.
No, absolutely. Agreed. And I think that's a great point, right? You can't say, well, woulda, coulda, shoulda. Newberry was winning up to that point anyway. So I think that negates that thought process and throws that out the window. You hate that if you're West Florida because you really like I want to see a great game. Like, we pick these games and we kind of give our opinion on them. But man, I just want to see great football games. I want to see down to the last drive, last couple plays and see some really good football. And I think that is what Newberry has done all year, right, guys? Like they have just kind of battled and played with a lot of emotion. And after the game, Todd Knight, gets interviewed, and you can hear the emotion in his voice of just how big of a win this is for Newberry being on the road. And we actually have some video here, or some audio rather, in the post game, and it's just you can hear that emotion in Coach Knight's voice of just how big of a win this was, not just for the team, but the community itself of Newberry.
I gotta wait till that first.
Coach, incredible ball game. You won 24-17. You've done something that no Newberry College team has ever done. What are your thoughts?
I'm overwhelmed a little bit, to tell you the truth. That was the message all week. Rewrite the history book, rewrite the record book, go out there and be the best team in the history of Newberry College football. And when we came out of the locker room in the second half, I said, we are not leaving here until you're the best team in the history of Newberry College football. And these kids went out and got it done.
Coach, things were not perfect today. I had some turnovers, missed a field goal, a lot of tough things happened, but it seemed like as your team has done all year, they just continue to bounce back.
Listen, I talked about it again all week and last night. It was going to be a close game. And when it's a close game, these kids know how to win it because they've done it all year. And they finished it the same way they've been playing all year. They found a way to win it in the end.
Talk about that. What is it about this team? You're 7-0 one-score games now. What is it about this team that just seems to make it happen when you need it?
It's really simple. They believe in each other. They believe in the coaching staff. They believe in each other. And there's absolutely zero quit in this crowd. I've never been around a group of young men that believe in each other the way these kids do.
Lastly, talk about the support of the community. A lot of people down here. What does that mean to you and the players?
Before we ever left the Berry, it was overwhelming at the turnout for a Thanksgiving dinner for this team. And then you look up a couple of days later, and that crowd that was in the cafeteria feeding these kids are all down here cheering for them. The Newberry faithful turned out today. We are so thankful.
Coach, good luck next week.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Well, I just want to say, there was somebody else who believed in you, Newberry. This guy right here, this guy out here, we believed in you and you came through. We cashed in on that win. And, I would just want to say a couple of things. First of all, Marcus Stokes goes down, right? And that's very unfortunate. But to West Florida had their chances in this game. They had two red zone tries that got stopped, right, by Newberry. And that's the epitome of a bend and don't break defense. Field goal attempt that they missed and turnover on downs. I mean, they had the chances when he was in the game. I mean, more importantly, though, the reason why I felt like Newberry was going to win this game or really had a good shot is because they had the one kryptonite that seemed to plague West Florida throughout the second half of the season, and that was the passing game. If you had a really good passing attack, a really effective one, and the athletes, the wide receivers to do it, you are going to give West Florida fits. And we saw that with Delta. We saw that with Valdosta.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are with Newberry. And we know that Newberry is not a running team. There's not a whole lot to think about with that one. So for them to go, really heavy on the pass more than usual, not surprising. That's what it was going to take, and the coaches made the decision to really lean into that, and they came out advancing. So definitely kudos to the Wolves.
Yeah, big win on the road, emotional win, and Newberry is going to take on Albany State, right? And this game feels like the 12th meeting between Albany State and Benedict this season. Chris, I know you had eyes on this one. How was the 12th matchup here between these two teams, or at least what felt like the 12th matchup between these two teams? Every time they play, that margin gets tighter and tighter. But go ahead and give us your thoughts after watching this one.
Yes, in the trilogy, the third time that these two teams have met this season. You're playing this team. You know that they're really good in Albany if you're Benedict, and you just wonder what is it going to take to get over the hump. And I think, to me, I think Benedict played about as good of a game plan as he possibly could. Keep the score low, and give your offense a chance. Create turnovers, things like that. This game was as close as a failed 2-point conversion. There's just not much more you can ask for out of your defense, and that to me is the staple of what Benedict is the defense. Isaiah Knowles got sacked 6 times in this game. They definitely want to push the ball down the field, but Benedict gave him fits. Not the strongest rushing attack out of Albany in this game. Only 92 yards of net rushing in this one. So you ride Isaiah Knowles to victory, and if you're Benedict, you had a great playoff run. I mean, for them to add to the list of SIAC teams that have won over the last 2 years in the playoffs, I mean, that's incredible. But if you're Albany, you kind of dodge another one against a very familiar foe. And I just want to say too, like Benedict, I mean, a lot of folks gave us flack about Benedict having some semblance of an offense against Wingate. Okay, yeah, we get it, but even then it was tough. And this one was even tougher against a really, really strong team. The 3 losses are all at Albany State.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to your point, Chris, I do. When I look at Benedict, I look at a program that is on their way back, right? Like they had coaching turnover a couple years ago, and hey, you didn't know if they were going to get back to this point, and not only that, like get past this point, and they're back, and they're here to play, and so really impressive job by Benedict, and I think the foundation they've put in place is going to be really beneficial next couple of years. And you look at Albany State, right? And in this game, I think we kind of all talked about it, right? Third time in what seems like 3 weeks, but in probably about days, wasn't it? So you tend to know both teams. You tend to know, hey, this is their tendencies. And so you kind of have to try to break those tendencies. You have to try to, hey, if our tendency is maybe to blitz on third down, hey, we got to start blitzing on first down and not maybe on a third down scenario. So you really have to like do a pretty deep self scout there just to kind of figure out what they're picking up on as well. And you felt like this was going to be this tight game. It was going to be a 12-9 or in this case a 14-12 kind of game, 10-7 almost. Like you knew it was going to be tight, and you knew it was going to come down to whose defense made one more play than the other teams, and that's really what it was. And I feel like Albany State has gotten better and better, and they have found ways to win ball games as the season goes. And Ryan, we've talked about that, just finding ways to win. Albany State here winning in a tight ball game and holding Benedict to 186 yards.
Yeah, and I mean, it's tough to win, period, in college football. It's tough to beat a team 3 times, especially one that, you play, almost every year. The SIAC scheduling is a little kooky, but, you play them a lot. But it's also, if you're looking at it from the Benedict side, it's tough to win games when you're 8 of 27 for 46 yards passing. Or, David Smith, 12 carries, 74 yards and a score. That's a pretty good day. You had the guys on defense. Benedict's defense is stout, but it's tough to beat anybody, much less a really good team like Albany, when you put up only 186 yards of offense. They got after Isaiah Knowles. I didn't realize they had sacked him 6 times. It felt like they had sacked him a lot more than that, but I guess they only got credit for 6 of them. But yeah, it's like you said, it's got to be like an absolute like gut punch to lose to the same team for the 3rd time. And like we joked, 3 weeks, I felt like Benedict just stayed at the hotel down there and didn't move, and they're just doing their classes online and stuff like that. But it's a tough loss, but you also got to look at the positives. I mean, 5 years ago, nobody was talking about Benedict football. I mean, the SIAC was Albany and Tuskegee due to historical stuff. You'd have your other schools here and there, but nobody was talking about Benedict. And now you've got a program who's gone to the second round of the playoffs 3 of the last 4 years. They've won, I looked it up, 72% of their games over the past 5 seasons. They're 41-16. I mean, they're top 5, I think, in our super region in win percentage over the past 5 years. Impressive. I mean, that's impressive.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, losing again is disappointing. But man, Albany State, a lot of similarities to Newberry. They find ways to win ball games that maybe they shouldn't have. But my dad always said good teams find ways to win ugly.
Yeah, no doubt. And to your point, I do want to say, Ryan, I think, we've said, hey, Benedict has lost them 3 times. Albany State has had to find ways to win 3 times.
Yeah,
they've had
the
to
first
come out
time.
Yeah.
First time they smacked them around a little bit. And that's what, I know KFerg and I had talked about it. They're a little bit nervous having to play him again there in the SIAC. And then, hey, congratulations. You get to do it again 2 weeks later. It kind of reminded me a little bit of, I don't remember what year it was, but there was one year that Carson Newman played Newberry in the next to last regular season game, and then turned around and played them 2 weeks later at home in the playoffs. That's so tough to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. It's hard on the players. It's hard on the coaches. And yeah. So, but nonetheless, tremendous win by Albany State, guys. I know we could sit here and talk about it all night. Just tremendous win for them, and a great season by Benedict. And jumping ahead now, you look at this game, and man, it's when you look at the numbers on these 2 teams, and you look at Newberry and you look at Albany State, and that's a great comparison. I think you said it, Ryan, like how eerily similar they kind of look. Both 1-loss teams averaging 31, 32, 33 points a game, and holding teams defensively to much less. It's eerily similar, both of these teams. So I'm intrigued at this matchup. I think you look at the offenses, they're both potent, they're both dangerous, they can both score, they can run the football, they can throw the football if they need to. I think they can do the things that it takes to win, and defensively, they're both bend don't break, and they're gritty teams. And Chris, when you look at this, when you look at these numbers, I gotta imagine you've been around the SAC and the SIAC for a long time, and this looks like a traditional, just absolute knockdown, drag out match.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is definitely a strength versus strength type of game. When you think about Newberry, all we've really talked about over the last couple of weeks is, their passing game, right? And how effective they are in the passing game, really quite a bit reliant on it. And Albany State, for those who are not as familiar with them, their secondary is their strength. I would say one of their biggest strengths on defense. If those guys aren't getting interceptions, they're definitely going to get pass breakups for sure. So
they're menaces. That's the best word for it. They're a bunch of menaces back there.
Yeah. So you look at like guys like Tyrell Gainey, and they love to they eat interceptions. And the one thing I think about like Newberry, over the last couple of weeks we talked about is like, if there's one thing they really haven't done a lot of is turnovers. Well, they had two against West Florida. They had turnovers against Kentucky State, and they kind of have to get back to that, limiting or even eliminating turnovers because the margin for error is getting smaller and smaller. The same could be said for Albany State. They got to finish drives, and we've seen Newberry, kill drives even if they're in the red zone. And so Albany's got to find a way to cash in. Because getting all the way into the red zone is not guaranteed against this Newberry defense.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting, Ryan. When you look at that, where do you sit? Like when you look at Newberry and that matching up on that defense, does it make you nervous when you sit there and say they've had to throw the ball the last couple weeks? Maybe the lack of a run game does that make you nervous at all? Going against somebody like Albany State?
I mean, not really. And maybe that's a contrarian to what most everybody else thinks, because Newberry's not really run the ball great all year. I don't know what their current number is. I'll pull it up on my computer. But like their leading rusher, Quez Spells, has only rushed for 400 yards and change this year. Newberry is averaging 98.8 yards rushing per game, according to their website. So, I mean, running the ball's not really been a thing for them this year, which is kind of funny because, Poe, you've been around the SAC for a while. That's what Newberry used to do. The problem, you ask old Newberry folks, they would have prayed to anybody, as they say in Talladega Nights, Jesus a la Tom Cruise, for a quarterback who could throw the ball down the field. It always used to be turn around, hand the ball off, and play outstanding defense. As far as so that doesn't really worry me. And I think another thing that is beneficial for Newberry is that Albany State has a tremendous defense. I mean, you see it right there on the screen, 13.3 points per game given up. I've got it pulled up. They're number 3 in yards per game in the entire country. But I think one thing that helps Newberry is that they have played 5. If I, use my North Carolina public school education correctly, they've played 5 of the top 20 total defenses in the country this year. So it's not like, they've played some pretty stout defenses. And so I don't want to say that I don't think that's going to be a problem because, now Albany can go out there and pitch a shutout and jinx me. But I don't think it's going to be as big of a shock to them as it would be if you're used to playing, some defenses from some weaker schools and whatnot. They're giving up 400 or 500 yards a week then you're going and playing, the 85 Bears and the 2000 Ravens back-to-back weeks.
Right.
So I think that's a big thing. But, to what KFerg said, they've turned the ball over more in the past 2 weeks than they did the whole rest of the season. That's slightly alarming for me.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think one of the things that kind of sticks out to me as I've had time this week to kind of digest it is, to your point, I felt like Newberry had to throw the football. Reed Sharpia had to throw the football downfield. He was out of the pocket. He was extending plays with his feet, doing all those things, maybe forcing balls downfield that he has not had to do this year. And it almost felt like they became a little one-dimensional against West Florida. Like, yeah, I get it. Sometimes you struggle to run the ball, but in these matchups, in these games, when you play solid pass defenses, you have to be able to run the football a little bit to establish, a rhythm. And if you can't do that, it's going to make you very one-dimensional. And I think Albany State has the potential to do that. I think they can get after you up front. I think they can rush the passer. They can keep Reed Sharpia off balance. They can keep him moving and forcing the ball downfield. And like you guys mentioned, the secondary, and those guys are ball hawks. They're getting to the football. They're getting turnovers. They're getting hits, that type of deal. So I think I think Albany State could make Newberry one-dimensional. I think Newberry has to find a way to establish the run in some capacity to kind of balance it out a little bit. Because if you become one-dimensional in these games, it's a great point, Ryan. I mean, they've played tough defenses all year, but I think you need to figure that out. That worries me a little bit from the Newberry perspective.
Yeah,
I think if you're Albany, I think you have to be nervous. You have to put them down early, and that cliche is choke them out of the game early and not let them back in it. Because if you let Newberry back in it, or you let them hang around in the fourth quarter, I mean, we saw it many times this year. And the game that sticks out to me is Anderson. When I'm sitting there watching it, and it's a dime, he throws a dime in the end zone for a touchdown, and you're like, holy smokes, like, here we go. Newberry doesn't quit. They're going to fight until that clock says 0. So if you're Albany, you've got to figure out a way to get up early and keep them out of it, keep their fans out of it. They will travel. I mean, they've shown that last week, on a week that typically on a Thanksgiving week where, you don't get a lot of community support typically, and, you don't typically travel well on those weekends. They travel well. They did everything you asked them to do. So I think there's, a lot there for Albany that they've got to go out, and it's not easier, right? These games don't get easier as we go. So really, really tough games, or a tough path for both teams in this game.
Yeah, Albany's got to put them down when you get a chance. I mean, because as we've talked about this year with Newberry, and Lenore Ryan learned this, Wingate learned this. I got the schedule pulled up. People forget Tusculum had them. Emory, Anderson, Carson Newman, even West Florida. Yeah. This year's Newberry, the lead is not safe until you're unloading the equipment bus at home.
Yeah. Great point. Great. That's a great point. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna throw it to you now, Ryan. We picked this game on Sunday night, but who are you going to take in this game, and why are you taking them?
Well, I pulled it off of the shelf just for entertainment purposes and for effects. I've stuck with the Wolves thus far in the playoffs. I think they've just found ways to win. They're playing with house money. They did the last game. I think that Sharpie is going to give them some issues. And like I said, the biggest reason to me is I think Albany's the one playing with the pressure. They're the 1 seed. They're the ones who, are hosting. They're looking to become the first HBCU school to reach the Final Four since Winston-Salem, if I remember correctly. Not to bring up old wounds, KFerg, but so that I've been rolling with Newberry all playoffs. So we'll just stick with them, and these guys just keep finding a way to win games that they really shouldn't. I think it's going to be. I think it's got a chance to be a little bit high scoring, like the Albany Valdosta game was. So I'll take Newberry somewhere around, like 36-33, something like that, maybe.
All right,
but it's going to be. I honestly think. And I don't want to disrespect anybody else. I think this game, if we were ranking the 4 regional finals, I think this one is probably score-wise easily the closest of the 4.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think it's going to be a great game. Chris, I know you gave your pick on Sunday. Are you sticking with it, or are you, as you've had time to digest it, are you thinking about flipping it?
No, I still feel confident that Albany State's going to going to be the winner in this game. I do think that they're balanced enough to sort of sideline the Wolves offense. The last two games that they've played against Valdosta and against Benedict, I mean, they've kind of played, some smart ball control and just eaten up the clock. My concern again is can they finish drives? But I think the score might be a little lower just because either it's going to end up in Newberry gets some really quick strikes, and that's very, very possible. Or Albany sort of playing keep away. The one thing I will say that I'm looking to see what happens is in 12 out of 13 games, Albany State has scored a touchdown in the first quarter. So can they continue that streak?
Yeah.
Or does Newberry break it? Because if Newberry breaks it, then I am a little concerned, and it could turn into that track meet of dealing with Valdosta trying to keep up and then finally taking over, and Newberry is a much better team than that. Just they can't afford to get behind for very long to start out, but then even if they got the lead, I mean, lead is safe for Newberry. So
No.
And that was a great point about the time of possession. I didn't realize it was that vast. Against Valdosta, they had the ball 41 minutes and change compared to 1840 something. And then I think the Benedict game was like 36 to 21,
23.
something like that. Yeah. So I mean, that's one thing definitely. If Albany can have these long drives and keep Sharpia and Spells and Desasher and all those guys chilling on the sidelines, that's a huge advantage for them.
Oh yeah. I think
as
so.
Long as you put up points. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. As long as they're putting up points.
Yeah.
If you're out there 8 minutes and you punt, who cares?
Yeah, you got to finish those drives, right? And I think that's important too. And guys, as I've had a chance to look at this, kind of diving into it here the last couple of days, I think Albany State is balanced. And when I say balanced, I look at it from the coach's perspective of not run versus pass, right? Like a lot of times you look at it like I got to be 50-50 run to pass. No, I don't look at it that way. I think balanced is very much, hey, if balanced, we could run the football if that's what we're getting given. If the defense is giving us the run, we're going to take the run. We've got to be able to do that. I think if the defense is giving us the pass, we have to be able to effectively block and throw the football. So for me, that's what being balanced is. And I think the more balanced team offensively tends to be Albany State than Newberry. Newberry relies on that pass. I think if they can't establish some sort of run game, I worry that, they're not going to be able to sustain as the game goes on. But they're explosive. There's no doubt about that. And then I think the other thing is their defense. I think their defense is just a tick better than Newberry's this year. I think you've seen that with the points given up. And I think you've seen them kind of find ways all year. And I think, defenses, as we get into it, we say defense travels. We talk about it all the time. I think Newberry or Albany State's has just a little bit better defense than Albany State. That being said, I'm very curious. I want to see what Newberry does. I don't think you can live and die with Reed Sharpia throwing the ball downfield, escaping the pocket, and running every play and extending plays with his feet. So very curious to see what Newberry's answer to that is and see what they can do to somewhat control the clock and control the ball if they're going to try to, or they're just going to go out and score and try to light the thing up and see what happens. But I'm taking Albany State in this one. I think it's going to be a tremendous game, but I think their balance and their defense is what's going to be the difference here. But either way, phenomenal football game. So really excited to see it. I think you guys are spot on. I think this is going to be one of the tighter matchups that we see this weekend in the regional finals. But so really great, really looking forward to it. And so the other thing that we talked about a little bit on the Sunday show, we didn't hit on it last week. We're going to hit on it now. Our Harlon Hill award, and it's the Division II Player of the Year, right? We talked about it. And so the Super Region 2 nominees, you guys can see here on the screen. And I know, Chris, you and I, we kind of talked through, our thought process on Sunday. Kind of wanted to put this up here, Ryan. I know you follow a lot of these these players and even the ones that you see on a regular basis. And, I know you're keeping up on. What are your two, as you look at this, who are your guys that you say, hey, these are the two guys in this super region? If we're looking at finalists, who are they going to be and why? Give us the 30-second elevator pitch on your two picks.
Well, before I do my two picks, I know that Whit talked about Jordan Jackson at Emory a little bit on Sunday. And, he did a pretty good spiel on it. Everybody, we've been talking about Reed Charpia for a couple weeks. So I'm going to take real quick. Preston Brown at Catawba has had a phenomenal year. And if you follow the stuff I post on social media, is a phenomenal human being. Him and Hunter, the other quarterback there, who's the backup. Preston's had a great career, 55 touchdowns, 11 interceptions over the past 3 years. He had a really great year, 26 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 2,700 yards. And then, Xavier Pugh for Wingate was one of 2 guys in the country who in the regular season rushed for over 1,000 yards and had 20 or more rushing touchdowns. So if I were going to pick 2 from this list, I think Stokes gets a lot because he's the West Florida guy. I'll be slightly biased, and I'm going to take the 2 sack running backs, honestly, Jordan Jackson and Xavier Pugh.
Okay. All right. I like it. And I think that's, I think a lot of it for me, and I kind of said this on Sunday, guys, was, I think it's the guys that not just put numbers up, right? But they mean something to your team. They're the guy that's the leader in the locker room, leader in the community, and is doing all those things right. And then putting the numbers up and the team can count on them. And Chris, I know kind of who you talked about on Sunday. Any thoughts or any changes to that, or are you still riding with those 2 guys?
Yeah, I had picked Marcus Stokes and Isaiah Knowles, and Knowles was one of the leading passers in the country before he got hurt this season, and so his numbers, certainly trailed off. But I mean, the impact of what he has on Albany is just second to none. And then the same with Marcus Stokes for what he was able to do at West Florida, and the fact that we even talk about, hey, if he wasn't in the game, if he was in the game, will West Florida win? Just shows the impact that he has as well. Fabian Duncan was definitely interesting to see his name on the list. Really, really, really good running back at Allen, so definitely want to give him his due. As well for how he just powered that a lot of that offense, even though they had a really good quarterback as well. So you can only nominate one person. Yeah. So for him to get nominated over his quarterback says a lot about how much they valued him.
Agreed. And again, Preston Brown, Reed Charpia, Dominique Davis, all those guys, right? Don't necessarily get a ton of talk, but Jordan Jackson. I mean, we've all kind of talked about those guys, but every one of those guys kind of embody the criteria that we have all talked about. And I think that's really impressive. So really, really proud and really excited about the nominees from Super Region 2. I think they kind of all embody what that award is. And I think will match up very well against the rest of the Super Regions and the people that they're competing with for that. And we should have finalists here, if I'm not mistaken, just about any day. So, really excited.
I think they said earlier tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah.
But I could be mistaken. Last thing I'll say about this, and I know Central State now, and they had a little bit tougher years than the other teams listed here. But especially, if you look at these quarterbacks, especially, I don't think any of their teams have the year that they do if they don't have those dudes.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. Agreed.
Which I think makes it special.
Well said. Yeah. Well said. All right, guys. And so as we look at it, obviously we spent the better part of about 40 minutes here talking about Super Region 2, but just wanted to pop over to each of the other Super Regions and kind of give our listeners, if they haven't seen the Sunday show, or if they're just Super Region 2 fans tuning in for the first time, kind of what the rest of the regions look like. Kutztown and Frostburg, a very intriguing matchup there in Super Region 1. the one versus, I guess, an unseeded Frostburg in the Super Region. So interesting to see that. In Super Region 3, Ferris State, probably one of the favorites out of this Super Region, and Minnesota State sitting here defeated Indy last week. So a one again versus another unseeded matchup here. Really intriguing storyline. Ferris State kind of been that number one team in the country all year, and a Minnesota State Mankato team. What's that?
Wagon.
Yeah. And then a Minnesota State team that is just, very, very tough and can, compete with anybody in the country. So an intriguing matchup there in Super Region 3. And then to wrap it in Super Region 4, Harding and UTPB, again, another one versus unseeded matchup. And I think you guys talked about it earlier. So this is an intriguing matchup, but, I don't know the last time we've had all number ones in the semifinals, but all three have an opportunity to advance here this year. So really exciting, I think not just in Super Region 2, but in all the Super Regions, some really interesting, exciting matchups in the regional finals. And for all of our followers, make sure you check us out on socials, D2KFerg, RC Gladwin 64, and at Coach Jay Polizzi. We will be watching games all day Saturday, tweeting out information, retweeting, and you can find us there, direct messages, subscribe, all that type of stuff, guys. But it has been an absolute blast this year, guys, doing these playoff preview pods. Unfortunately, this is the last one here for the regional finals before we get into the national semis and the national championship. I know it has flown by, but it's been an absolute blast, and I really appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy schedules and everything you're ready to do to contribute to D2 football to hop on here with us today and every week in the playoffs. So Ryan, really, really appreciate you taking time, buddy, and getting on here, giving us your insight. And Chris, as always, the bantering never stops between us, so it's always fun to get on here and give each other grief. So really appreciate you guys, and just want to say thank you to all the listeners and followers that have been on board, not just in the playoffs, but all season long, following us and reading our articles and watching our shows. We really appreciate that. We take a lot of pride in it. So want to thank you for that. And want to thank you for the consistent support as the season continues to wind down here. So with that being said, for D2KFerg and Ryan Gladwin, I am Coach Poe, Justin Polizzi. We genuinely appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you here in the next couple weeks at the national championship and as we wind down the 2025 season. Thank you and have a great weekend and enjoy your football Saturday.